Who's asleep amidst the trees? That's all a swaying in the breeze. But when the soul lies anxious, wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags and rakes. For your dolly Polly sleep has flown, don't dare let her tremble alone. For the wheelchair, heartless cold, paid in coin of gold. He comes, he'll go, leave naught behind but heartache and woe. Deep, deep woe. It's all silent for the night. Cows turned in as daylight dies. But when soullight launches wide awake, fearing all manner of ghouls, hags and rakes.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our Monday night's live discussion. And we are bringing this to you from the Haunted Antiques Paranormal Research Centre in Hinckley, Leicester. And of course, we're sponsored by Sims Vintage Antiques in Morton Warren near Stratford. So a big welcome to everybody. I hope you've all had a fantastic Halloween. I hope you've all managed to celebrate in the best way you can, even if you've not been able to get out trick-or-treating. So I hope you've all had a good weekend. So tonight we have got our lovely guest, Steve Higgins.
Hello.
And we're going to be talking all things Higgy Pop.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, so welcome, Steve.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. It's always great to have you on. It's always a fascinating chat.
Okay.
And the exciting thing is now, of course, all the new exciting things that are going to be coming up over the next month or so.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy month. Yeah.
So Steve, I apologise. I'm not looking at you, but my camera's there and my screen's there, so I'm not being ignorant.
That's what I'm looking at.
So you've just announced the nominations for the awards.
Yeah. So after we did all the nominations in October, beginning of October.
Yeah.
Then there was a really, really tough 10 days of whittling down that shortlist, which was so much harder than the first 2 years I've done this. And then at midnight on Halloween night, yesterday morning, essentially, the shortlist was revealed and the public voting opened. And yesterday there was almost 1,000 votes every hour. So the first 24 hours ended up with about 23,000 odd votes, which is amazing. And just passed about 32,000, I think, today.
Wow.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because last year, was it something like 64,000 votes or something you had in total?
It's about 59,000, rounds up to about 60,000 last year.
Then you're already more or less halfway there, and it's only been open, what, a couple of days?
Yeah, I mean, that's why actually I've reduced the, it was a whole month of voting last year. I've reduced it to just 13 days this time round, because most of the votes come in the first few days anyway.
Yeah.
And it's stressful having like that many people hitting your site every few hours. So if I can reduce that down and still get the same number of votes or similar number of votes, then that relieves a lot of the pressure on me and my servers.
Yeah. So
Does it sort of encourage you a lot with you know, knowing that it's knowing what's happened on the last 2 years and knowing that how things have gone, and particularly with the year that everybody's had, does it sort of encourage you and motivate you now that you sort of had all these votes in the last day or so?
Yeah, I mean, it is what makes it all worthwhile. And I mean, there's no point me spending time making and writing and producing content if no one's going to see it? I mean, that's the whole point of it. So to see such a engaged audience around this, and to see not just the teams and the people that are nominated sharing stuff, but also the people that are going on and voting, are clicking the buttons to say I voted, have your say here as well. So it does engage the whole community, and it does make it worthwhile.
Was it a shock to you, the number of people who vote?
Yeah, the first year I think it was 40,000 votes in the first year or something like that. And the first year's awards, I sort of just threw it together, because I'm sort of from a world of producing web content, and we would kind of have all these kind of incentives throughout the year, and each month there'd be some kind of event on the website, and one of them was awards. And I just noticed that no one was really doing awards in the paranormal space, so I thought that might be a good thing to drum up some interest in the website after Halloween. So I didn't put too much thought into it. And of course, in the nomination stage, no one was really interested, because no one knew how big it was going to be. So didn't really get many nominations. So I trolled through and picked some people to shortlist myself. But then as soon as people knew they were nominated, that's when the votes came in. And it ends up being the 40,000 votes in the first year. And that obviously meant it was definitely worth doing for a second year. So then this year, based on the success of last year, as Neil knows, we were thinking, well, let's go even further. Let's have a lovely day where we can get people from the paranormal world together and we can celebrate, and it will be the sort of big industry event almost of the paranormal world. And we had a location booked, and we were going to do a proper real award show with the support of Haunted Magazine as well. But obviously that's not going to work out. And I mean, even a few months back when the lockdown restrictions started to ease, I did think maybe we can do it, but I made the decision to cancel. And then obviously now we will be locked down until hotels will be closed until now beginning of December. So it would have never happened this year. So that's something to potentially aim for next year now.
I must admit I was gutted, because we were talking about this event, and I was gutted when we had to cancel. When you had to cancel, because I think it was going to be a special night, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even if it could go ahead this year, it just wouldn't be the same if you couldn't go up to everyone and give them a hug and
that's right
stuff. And just the memory of doing the first one with everyone wearing masks and social distancing just wouldn't have been right. But the idea was, obviously there would be a limited number of people anyway at the event, but the idea was to stream it for the world to see as well. So yeah, I mean, unfortunately we're all losing out this year, but yeah, maybe next time.
So hopefully next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slightly terrifying thought, because I don't do events. I don't put on events. I sit behind a laptop and write web content. That's what I do. Yeah. So it is a big step forward to turn it into an event, but I'm sure we can do it.
I think with the help of like Haunted Magazine, people tend to focus on too much on the bad side of the paranormal. But since we've been open to the centre, we've seen the vast majority of people in the paranormal field all get on, are all nice people. Okay, we've got some weird ideas, we've got weird hobbies.
Of course.
But they tend to be nice people who want to get on. Yeah,
I mean, I've made some brilliant friends through the paranormal. I mean, it's been I've been running the website as sort of a full-time venture for 3 years now, and over that time I've made some great contacts and great people, and even met my girlfriend through the paranormal. So I mean, for me, it's been a really nice 3 years doing something I love and meeting lovely people.
Yeah, that's how I know me and Jane think the same about the centre. We have met so many. We've made not met them. We've made so many new friends since we've been open. So I'm sure James agrees. We regard ourselves as very lucky to do what we do. Okay, this year's a bit of a naff year, but next year's going to be different. Touch wood. so, okay, we've got lots of comments coming in. I do apologise. I missed quite a few comments. But they're saying good luck. Nice to see you and all that sort of stuff. There's quite a few different categories this year. Was that always on the cards? Do you always want to make it different?
I think it's a learning curve to some extent. So the categories are sort of shaped to try and let as many people shine through as possible. So last year, the biggest changes last year, there was an online content creator category, but because there's so many small teams, not small teams, but independent teams making great content, I split that out this year into YouTube, Facebook, and Amazon Prime, just so those 3 channels can have 3 winners and 3 separate sets of nominees. So you've got about 8 shortlisted in each category there. So, you know, it just ups it from the 5 that were shortlisted in one category last year.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, even getting shortlisted, hopefully, is recognition and for these people and these teams, and being listed on this page is going to get, let's hope, about 100,000 votes this year. You know, should give them a bit of prominence and attention, or at least get their name spotted, which is the thing.
I must admit, I know some people take the awards deadly seriously, which is fine. I know I'm just feel, and I know the whole of us feel honoured just to be on the list. And obviously we're on quite a few, 3 of the list, so it's been exceptionally good for us. There's a good comment here from Dale. Let me just put it on screen. I think you don't get the recognition you deserve, Steve. So Dale says, yes, good luck, Neil, and well done to Steve for organising this all.
It's very nice he says that, especially after I've ignored his comment today. Last night, but I haven't forgotten you, Dale.
I think you don't get the accreditation, enough credit for what you do. I think it's.
But then I don't really seek that sort of thing anyway. Until I don't do many chats like this, I don't tend to put my name out there. I tend to hide behind the brand of a website anyway. And for me, it's seeing people enjoying what I do and what I create, really. So, you know, seeing the number of people on the website that's the kind of the credit for me. I mean, there's 170 odd people on the website this very moment, which is great. So yeah, I mean, that's my motivation and credit, really.
Here's another comment from Danny. Hey guys, hope everyone had a good Halloween. Well done, Steve, for everything you do. So yeah, and they're saying, let's find some good comments. This is from Phil, saying some great nominations this year.
So all these names popping up are the people that we're talking about, the people that, you know, I've had the pleasure of speaking to and the contacts I've made over the last few years. So thanks to all you guys for coming along tonight.
Yeah. Any questions for Steve, Jane?
Well, I just love the thought that, you know, this is going to potentially be the Oscars of the paranormal world, and I think it's great that, you know, this sort of thing now is evolving into something that everybody is really looking forward to, and we can do something, you know, it's something really positive for everybody to look forward to. And the other thing I really like is the fact that I think all the votes are purely based, or the results are purely based on people's votes, aren't they? So it's all down to the people out there to make this happen for the people that they want to vote for.
Yeah, I mean,
it's that interaction, isn't it?
Yeah, the nomination process and the shortlist obviously helps shape those categories, so that there's some structure when it comes to voting. Because you don't, you know, if you left it just up to the public to vote, you might end up with a situation where in the television category you get Ghost Adventures at number 1, and then at number 2 you get Ghost Adventures Quarantine, and at number 3 you get Ghost Adventures Serial Killer Spirit. So is the idea of the nominations and then putting together a shortlist just means you can kind of pick the most prominent piece of work. So for example, the book category, Richard Estep could have pretty much occupied every position in that shortlist. So he's picking out his one book, which is the most prominent and reflective of the year, and then giving people the chance to vote on that. But then, yeah, when it comes down to voting, it's purely down to what people are voting for, really. So that's with the exception of 2 categories, which is the unsung hero category, and this year the coronavirus community spirit category. So those 2 are well, it's kind of narrowed down. Everyone's assessed from the nominations, and one winner will be selected, and that's done in that way because we don't want it to be a case where someone just drums up their fan base and votes and they're not really worthy. So it's, we pick someone special, and obviously Neil was the winner of the Unsung last year, and I'll tell you, your name's come up a lot again this year actually, Neil. But you were sung last year, so you're no longer unsung, so you can't win it again. So but I'm sure it's nice that people are mentioning you again though.
It is. It's nice to be appreciated for what we do. Not just me, everybody. Let's put this comment up from Danny. Danny says a live event next year for the awards would be amazing. It gives people a great chance to meet and share stories. Yeah,
I mean, it'd be nice for us to all meet with the lights on for a change.
I think the other really great thing about it as well, just from talking to you like tonight, is how sort of adaptable the awards are. You can sort of adapt it to what is current at that time in the paranormal field, and I think that's a real credit to the awards themselves.
Yeah, I memean, it's got to be reflective, and the awards the categories have to be shaped in a way to help what's been topical, trending, and buzzing. Because, in fact, I mean, one example is last year you did a show probably about this time last year where you went through the nominations, and I think it was you, Jane, who said, "Oh, it'd be nice if there was a category where things like Stranger Things could be nominated." And then directly from that feedback, there is now the paranormal entertainment show category, which has Netflix's Haunting from Bly Manor in it, and BBC's Ghosts, and a few other shows like that. So unfortunately, no Stranger Things, because that was another casualty of COVID. It's now delayed till next year. But yeah, that's that kind of category that's a direct result of your feedback, really. And yeah.
We have got Truth Seekers this year, haven't we?
Yeah, just finished that last night. Yeah.
You were watching that yesterday, weren't you, Jane?
I was. Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I think it's a real good. I think it's a good sort of comedy show, and you're not going to take it too seriously, but it is very entertaining. And I binge watched it right to the end of the season.
Yeah.
I just kept putting them on one after another because it's just good fun. But it's great for I think it's just a great bit of light entertainment that just. I think you will get all the jokes, and I think you will find it much funnier when you're sort of part of the paranormal and you can relate to what he's talking about, and it's good fun. Yeah,
I mean, a lot of the jokes are on us, but it's nice that there is something reflective of what we're doing, isn't there? I mean, there's a bit one of the lines he mentions the fact that he's been researching the paranormal for 15 years, and so far fuck all's happened.
Yeah, it is. You do laugh out loud quite a lot while you're watching it.
I've not watched it yet, so don't say too much.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. Okay, Phil says, "Be great to meet you."
Yeah, words. Yeah.
So of course. Sorry, I'm just reading other comments on. I do apologise. I'm getting sidetracked. So when is going to be announced, Steve?
So voting closes on Friday the 13th, and that gives me then a few days to prepare some kind of winners announcement, and that will be streamed as live on Sunday the 29th of November. But again, I had someone lined up to host that presentation and do a better job than I do, but can't even do that because it's not essential work now, and we're supposed to be working from home, so I can't really even have someone over to come and film that video with me. So you're stuck with me again this year.
I'm
sure we don't mind. It's always interesting talking. So do you think next year the categories will be changing again, or do you think you're about getting there the way you want it to be now?
At this point, I can't think of any changes I'd want to make. And I think even last year when some of the votes were coming in, I was sort of starting to think maybe this should be done differently. Yeah. So I'd like to think that things will remain the same. And the game category this year I added because there's quite a lot of paranormal games that have been around this year. I mean, I don't know how many paranormal themed games get released on an average year, so I don't know if that category would therefore be warrant existing next year. So it does depend on what's released and what happens, really.
Yeah, so it's always going to be evolving and based on what's happening at the time. Yeah,
probably. And who knows, there might be a rival to Facebook or YouTube that pops up within a year and we all move over to that. Who knows?
You never know. So how's lockdown really affecting you? Is it really doing your head in like it is me?
I mean, the first lockdown, I would, because I live alone. My girlfriend Kerry lives in Sheffield, so like 2.5 hours away from me. And I've got no garden. So the first 10 weeks of lockdown that we had, I was alone in a flat for 10 weeks, which was just horrible. Didn't see anyone or another living thing. So that was really tough. But I think my coping mechanism was just to not really focus on it. And I sort of took up DJing in my bedroom and that kind of thing. And so this time around, I mean, it's also weird at the moment that I kind of am pleased that they've at least announced a lockdown, because at least we now know the situation. It gets us out of this, should we or shouldn't we? I mean, whether it's right or wrong isn't a decision for me to make. I'll follow the rules now they've imposed it. If they'd chosen not to, then equally I'd have carried on and gone out and enjoyed it. But yeah, at least we know the situation. I mean, work in terms of paranormal and what I do. I mean, I work from home and things anyway. Obviously, part of what I do is going out and reviewing paranormal events, and there used to be at least 1 or 2 a month that I'd cover, and there's probably not going to be any more this year now. So I have lost that strand of content, and even sort of delay on. There's a lot of shows that have been cancelled, and a lot of teams aren't being able to get out and do things. So that's that limits the amount of content that I can write about as well. So it does make it more of a struggle. But then Halloween has proved that there's still a lot going on. I mean, Are You Haunted did a lot over Halloween. Haunted Hunts, Most Haunted. There was Really did their 13 Nights of Fright. So they had new shows on every night, a lot of which I reviewed. So it's still been a busy Halloween.
That's good then. So do you find, because you're again really well known in the field, do you find that teams actually contact you to invite you out with them?
They do to some extent, yeah. I mean, I'm always I hate this kind of influencer mentality where people think they're entitled to go somewhere or do something for free and review it, because they're not at the end of the day. And I would rather pay and support teams and companies anyway. I get something out of going to the event, so I'm quite happy to pay my way for that. So I do get invited from time to time, and I'll obviously happily accept those offers and go along, especially if there's some kind of story or angle that they want me to cover, because usually it means something interesting's happening. I do just book onto public events mostly and try and pick up a new location that I haven't been to before and do it that way.
Yeah. So do you like the public events so you can meet the
I think because I've got no points to prove on my website. I don't run the website to try and prove that the paranormal exists, and I don't run it to try and debunk the paranormal. So I could see a full apparition walk past me at a ghost hunt. If I write about that, people are still going to question who's he to say that's true. Why should I believe him? He could have just imagined it. So I'm never going to prove the paranormal exists.
No.
So for me, it's just about the event and the experience and whether I'd recommend to others and what they can expect. And a lot of it is the people you meet. So I like the public events because you never know who you're going to end up with, and it's a bit luck of the draw. Sometimes you were terrible people, but other times you just get people that are full of energy, and they'll have do table tipping, and the tables will be spinning down the corridor, and Ouija boards full of answers. And even though I'm quite skeptical and don't necessarily believe all of it, it's still really nice to see those things happening and people's reaction to it, and and hearing people's thoughts on it. So that's what it's all about for me, really. Kind of just living it.
That's good. Got a question, Jane?
Yeah. Because of lockdown and this new coming lockdown and this year that we've had, which is how everybody refers, is like been unprecedented. You know, there's going to be so much more content now put online on all the different sort of platforms. Do you think that makes your job harder to try and review everything and see everything, or do you sort of welcome that to sort of keep you busy?
Yeah, I don't know. That's one to cross when it comes to it. I mean, I'll certainly tackle it head on, but I mean, how much of it I can get through is another question. But the other thing is, when it comes to I'm not very good at keeping up with YouTube subscriptions or watching because I'm always working pretty much, so I don't often stop and go onto YouTube and think, right, what is there to watch here? So the hardest bit is actually finding what there is to review in the first place and keep an eye on in the first place. But usually if something big happens or something interesting happens, you know, you pick up on the buzz, or you see people talking about it, or teams quite often, which is my preferred option, they'll give me a shout if they think something they've done is newsworthy. Then they'll say, check out this video, can you do a page on it? Which the answer is almost always yes, if that's what, you know, if they think they've got something. So yeah, I'm sure. I mean, being online, the content is more accessible. It's easier for me to get at. It's easier for my audience to get at as well. You know, and it's better than constantly reviewing US TV, which is the other option.
So I'll put you on the spot here, Steve. Which do you prefer, US shows or British paranormal shows? Not shows, either, anything, YouTube, anything.
I like a bit of both, to be honest. I mean, I get different things from them. Because I do like Paranormal Lockdown, which has now been cancelled, and it's not nominated this year, so I can have a say on that. So I do like the US teams, and it's nice to see the different locations. But I don't know. I just think there's something nice about British shows, and the fact that they're, you know, we've got better history, arguably, here. You know, we've got older places. We've got sort of sacred land and things that date back thousands of years. I mean, Margam Castle has had ghost stories going back centuries, and, you know, the land's been cursed for 4,000 years or something. So I don't think you can really get anything like that in the US to the same extent. So I do like seeing British locations and British teams.
Yeah. Of course, the other week you took part in the Festival of the Unexplained.
Yeah, that was really good.
Did you watch a lot of that weekend event?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, there were some brilliant bits. I mean, especially I was really impressed, especially by Kieran O'Keefe. I thought he just came across so well on that. The way he can just talk for an hour and make everything so interesting is just really impressive. And I just love his kind of unbiased and non-judgmental take on it all as well. I mean, if someone came up to me and said, you know, they'd seen the ghost of a clown tightrope walking across a bar, I'd just think they were drunk. But Kieran handles all that sort of stuff in such a sort of compassionate way and gets the best out of those people and you know, really learns about their experiences. Whereas, you know, most of us would just dismiss it and think they're crazy.
So do you think that sort of online event is going to keep growing? Obviously, it's come to the fore because of the lockdown.
I think we've all learned the power of online events now, because I do a bit of work in the events industry as well, into sort of video things and streaming and stuff like that. So I think there's definitely a shift to virtual events, and with the uncertainty, I think a lot of people will put their eggs in the kind of online virtual basket for probably next year as well. And I think it'll give a lot of events a platform they currently don't have. It'll develop the processes and the ways of doing things and the ways of streaming things. And, you know, people will learn. I mean, StreamYard that we're using tonight to do this discussion has exploded over the last year. So I think people will kind of learn these ways of doing things online. But having said that, we love the human contact, and I think as soon as we can start doing stuff in real life again, I think we will be back to doing it. So I think a lot of the bigger events will instantly switch back to being real life events. But there will be some that will remain and find a new place online, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Anything, Jane?
Yeah, just going back to sort of the like the English history. Do you think there's a slight difference between sort of English history or the English sort of spirit world, if you like, rather to the Americans? Because obviously, you know, that land was sort of seized and it was a great spiritual land beforehand, and it was sort of taken away. With having the two different sort of histories, do you think that there's a difference there?
I mean, it definitely shapes the ghost stories, doesn't it? I mean, here we have a lot of monks and plague victims and things like that. The US, you get a lot of obviously Civil War and Native Americans that come through as ghosts as well. So yeah, I think it definitely shapes stuff. And yeah. I mean, the US side isn't something I know that well, but they're very different stories. But then it's the same all over the world. I mean, if you go sort of further east as well, their ghost stories differ so much, and it just shows how influenced by culture and popular perception ghost stories are as well. Because I think here we tend to see, you know, a dark, shadowy figure, and our first assumption is it's a monk. But in other parts of the world, they'll see the same figure, but I think just interpret it very differently, and it's just down to their cultural background and their historical ghost stories, and yeah, what the land was used for, and to try and explain what that unknown might be.
Yeah. The paranormal's not very big in Europe. We spoke to Sally Lacknar quite a while ago now, wasn't it, Jane? And I think she finds it quite frustrating that in France it's nowhere near what it is in the UK.
Yeah, I know she's making a documentary about it, isn't she, about Brits' love for the paranormal. And I don't know why that is. I mean, does it just go back to Charles Dickens and A Christmas Carol and the fact that we've got all these really famous ghost stories just embedded in our culture and kind of in our mainstream media as well? Yeah. I mean, being an English-speaking country, growing up, we had, I know it's American, but we had Ghostbusters, and then we had Ghost Watch in the 90s, and there was just countless ghost and paranormal themed shows as a kid. So maybe that's what shaped it, and it's just they don't have that sort of entertainment in Europe.
I must admit, I never thought about going back to Charles Dickens. But
well, I mean, A Christmas Carol sort of set the rules for a lot of ghosts. I mean, the rattling chains, I don't think it was first referenced there, but it definitely cemented the idea of rattling chains and ghosts being transparent and cold spots. But A Christmas Carol was one of the first books to be printed. It came along not long after the printing press, so it was the first sort of mass-produced book, pretty much, one of the first. I think probably the first mass-produced ghost story. Before that, they were just serialized in various ways. So I think that's the sort of ghost story that has concreted a lot of our views of and also what Christmas is as well. I mean, a lot of the ways he describes Christmas and the traditions that he describes in that book are the ones that have stuck as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we'll go back to the awards now then. With the nominations, did you get lots and lots of nominations and it was a bit of a headache for you to sort out?
Yeah, I mean, there was more than I expected. I mean, I didn't know there were the majority of the votes for the best paranormal events company were UK based, and there were 55 of them, and I just didn't know there were that many events companies running in the UK. Some of the categories were a little quieter than others. There wasn't as much to choose from. But I mean, the idea of the nominations is I can't know everything that's happening, so it's just to give me a list of things to work from and then filter through and pick the ones that are most worthy. And you know, a lot of it comes down to, would say, the events companies, how many events have they put on this year, which admittedly is difficult. What sort of following do they have? How many guests are they welcoming in each week and things like that? So yeah, it was a really long process this year, and yeah, a lot of thinking various things through.
So you do a lot of research on these nominations then?
Yeah. So I mean, there's 8 shortlisted nominees in each category in 15 categories.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that works out as, but at least a couple of hundred people end up on the shortlist.
Yeah.
But every single one I went through and judged. Even if they had one nomination, I went through and judged them. And you know, a lot of them are a waste of my time, because someone will say on Facebook, go and nominate me, and someone will go on and they'll nominate them, but they'll nominate this podcast in best book category and best Facebook category, and they don't do those things. So you know, they instantly get kicked off anyway. But it still leaves a lot of people to go through, and some aren't quite clear what category they should fall into. So I need to contact those people and say, what actually is it you do? And then you're balancing up, you know, if you've got a book and a podcast, I don't want to give prominence to people in 2 categories necessarily. But if you've got a really successful book and a really successful podcast, then it makes sense for both to be included. So it's kind of just working out where everyone should go and what gives everyone the best shout at getting through, really.
I couldn't imagine going through all that. I must have.
It ends up with some very complicated scoring and ranking systems, and yeah.
So do you? Perhaps it's wrong me asking you this. Do you ever look at a nominee and think, no way?
Yes, if they've got about 20 YouTube subscribers and they haven't uploaded the video for 9 months, then I mean, it's not all about the numbers. It's not based on that, but they've got to be active, and what they're doing needs to be appreciated. But it needs to be of a good quality as well. So equally, if they're calling themselves a ghost hunting series, or if they're nominated in that category, what they're doing does need to be a ghost hunting series. So there were some people who are more what I'd call paranormal vloggers that got nominated in the YouTube category, but they were just people pretty much like this, just sat in a room saying, hey guys, so heard about the ghost of so-and-so, and that's not a ghost hunting series, so they get knocked out. So there are some easy eliminations as well as some trickier ones.
I found it interesting about the YouTube, I must admit, because there's quite a few on there that I've just started watching this year. So like CJ Faison.
I've never heard of that channel before last week or a couple of weeks ago when the nominations came through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big channel that seems to be doing very well.
Yeah. I've watched quite a few of his shows. The downside to me about that is it's in America. It's American. Yeah. Americanized. Now the Americans got this thing about demons everywhere, and that frustrates me a lot, because they don't know. They tend to jump. They don't know what it is, so it's demonic.
Yeah, and I don't understand the mentality of that, because I mean, if ghosts are the spirits of human, then there has to be good and bad spirits. So I don't know why people make the leap from bad spirit to non-human demonic entity.
Yeah,
because it could equally be someone like me just being a bit of a dick from beyond the grave.
Jane's got a theory on this, and we think if it's an energy that they don't understand, it's immediately labelled demonic. But we've had this at the centre, didn't we, Jane? We had this item come to the centre, and this medium says, "Oh, it's demonic. It's really evil." And it turned out that it was a ball elephant that's contained in this object. Is that right, Jane?
Yeah.
So it was an energy that he couldn't work out. Obviously not human, so automatically jumped to the demon side of things.
But then
very dangerous.
Yeah, but then it is non-human, isn't it? So I suppose in that respect, it's an easy leap to make.
Yeah. You got any question, Jane?
Yes, I'm thinking about sort of para-unity, and I know that word's sort of bandied around a lot, but do you feel that since the awards have been going and you've been sort of bringing these categories and all these people together, do you feel over the last couple of years that maybe people's attitudes have changed? Do you think that the paranormal is a better place because of people getting to know each other more, and these awards are bringing people together?
I mean, I don't think I'd take the credit for that, but I mean, from my own personal perspective, the awards have introduced me to people. So you know, I've gained a bit of para-unity for it myself, and kind of surrounded myself by a nice little network of people. But forgotten what I was going to say. But yeah. So I think it might help, but I don't think I'm responsible for that.
The awards certainly bring people together. They get talking, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the biggest events for me for para-unity this year have been the Festival of the Unexplained and the Paracon from back in May, which is also a really good virtual event, because I think those really introduce you to teams you hadn't heard of, and you sit and watch their content, and I think they were really good and really well put together.
Yeah, I enjoyed them.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating. It's always good to watch how other people work and people's different ideas and people's different perceptions and ideas on things. You know, it's great now. I think that we can, even though there's more sort of content online, it does make it easier to access what other people are doing and how they work and everything else through live feeds, or, you know, however they've done it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what it's all about. 'Cause, I mean, you got people like Are You Haunted who are really back to basics and rely on senses, which, you know, personally is a method I prefer, because I think hauntings happen when, you know, naturally and organically around you. And I would rather replicate a haunting with my own senses and have a gadget tell me how to do it. But then some people think that it's boring to just sit in the dark and wait for stuff to happen, and they want the gadgets. And there's loads of shows that do that as well, and some that take that to the absolute extreme with building gadgets. I mean, you got Eamon Van Harris, who formerly from Most Haunted, who runs the Science, and he's got machines that would fill a room that kind of generate EVPs and things like that. Then you can go on an event with Jane Harris, who takes a much more spiritual approach to things, and the night starts with a seance, with sort of a meditation session and things like that. So yeah, I think it's great, but there's something for everyone. I mean, I did an event a few weeks back where there was a psychic on board for the event, and they ended up doing a clearing and helping a spirit move on as part of that investigation, which isn't something that is necessarily my preferred activity on the ghost hunt, but it was really interesting to see it and experience it and see how the other guests reacted to it as well.
I bet that was quite fascinating.
Yeah, it was actually, yeah.
Yeah, and if the guests hadn't seen that sort of thing done before, I think it's something different for them to see as well.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on if you go to a haunted location and the medium says there's a spirit here that doesn't want to be here? What are your thoughts on the medium automatically sends them to the light?
It's a grey area, isn't it? I mean, the problem is you've got to assume the psychic's real, they're trustworthy, and they can genuinely move that spirit on in the first place. But even if they can't, suggesting that they have done that is potentially damaging to someone's business who rents out a property to ghost hunts, which, you know, might sound like profiteering, but then a lot of these places are old places that need maintenance and need help to keep running. And it's stuff from, you know, it's funds from things like ghost hunts that give places much needed funds. So, I mean, you have a bit less compassion for places like East Drive, but the more historic places, I mean, it would be a shame if people stopped going because word got out that the spirits have been moved on and it's no longer haunted. But I don't know. I mean, you can only move on an intelligent haunting anyway. In a lot of places, you know, it's questionable whether you're experiencing, you know, trapped energy and residual haunting or an intelligent haunting anyway. So it's got to be quite difficult to really move a haunting on, completely clean a building, I would have thought.
Yeah. Any question, Jane? Got a few minutes left.
No, I think I was just fascinated with listening to Steve then, and I was just so engrossed in listening to him. I haven't got a question. Not at the minute. I'll try and think of one.
Your mind was engrossed. So you mentioned these drives, Steve. Have you been there?
Yeah, I've been a couple of times. And I mean, for me, as a fan of the paranormal, it's not just about going on an investigation and getting lots of paranormal evidence and that, paranormal activity. I like going to places as well because of the stories that are linked to them. So, if I go to East Drive, it's a bit like visiting a movie set for me. I'll walk in and I'll see the coal hall and it's like, oh, that's where Joe was in the coal hall. Yeah. And then walks the stairs that Diane was pulled up. And, so I enjoy just seeing the places for myself and seeing where the stuff allegedly happens. And so there's a lot of that involved in it, which is lucky because my time at East Drive was very, very quiet. The only thing I can really report that happened there was during the whole 6-hour thing, at around midnight, a REM pod went off that had been in the same place all night, triggered once and didn't trigger again. But that was pretty much it. I actually thought the house was quite cozy and nice, a bit like sort of visiting your nan's house.
That's just how I described it. So what have you had? What's your scariest experience on any of these ghost hunts?
I don't think I've had a scary experience as such. I think I've had interesting experiences. At best, I've seen unexplained lights and had tapping that is responsive, 2 for yes and 1 for no, which I just cannot fathom at all. It completely breaks my head. Yeah. To the extent where I go around the room because I quite shamelessly will just go around the room and I'll, shine torches at people's feet and check everyone's hands because I don't care. I want to get to the bottom of it, and I just can't find a logical explanation for why these knocks happen and how they're so responsive. But then, just weird. I think Drakelow Tunnels is the one where I've had these strange lights that I can't explain. Like on pretty much every time I've been there, there's been some strange light phenomenon, and some of it could have potentially been someone else's torchlight, but they've generally come from areas where there is a dead end and there's no one down there. But then I've also seen these tiny little sort of pinpricks of light that look like stars. They're far too small to be the torchlight. They look like the size of a star if you look up into the sky, but they appear just sort of, further down the corridor away from you, and no other sources of light. It's in total darkness. So that's the closest I've got to scares and evidence, really. Just kind of strange stuff.
Drakelow Tunnels is a cool place. I enjoy going down Drakelow Tunnels.
Yeah, it's just good.
I think that.
Sorry, carry on, Neil.
You go on.
I was just going to say, so being a fairly sort of skeptical person, and at the rate that technology is moving on, do you think that there ever would be some sort of equipment that's developed that could sort of prove that is spirit? And if that technology was there, would you find, and the evidence was there, would you find yourself being sort of challenged to accept what was the evidence that would sort of been recorded?
I think actually it's sort of the opposite to that, because if the ghosts and paranormal exist, for me, the only logical explanation is that it's completely above our current understanding of what science is. So, for example, if a ghost can walk through a wall, then it has no solid structure. If it has no solid structure, then light can't reflect off of it in order for us to be able to see it. So the kind of idea of those two things just completely contradict. So if there is a ghost that's visible to us, it can't be reflecting light. It must be visible in some other way. And it must be different to the matter that the world's made up of. So you can't detect something that's outside of our surroundings with, say, a metal aerial, which is of this world. So I don't think there will ever be a technology that can detect ghosts, but that doesn't mean that there might be ways that we can prove that another form of energy or another kind of plane of existence is around us all the time, that our brains can pick up on, or that influences us, or generate some sort of psychic vision or something along those lines. So I think it's less about technology being able to prove the existence of me, and more about understanding what the human brain's capable of and why we see these things.
Yeah, cool.
Okay, I've got a few more minutes left. So the awards will be announced on November 29th. Is that right? What time will that be, so everyone can be glued to your channel?
Good question. It might say on the website, so I won't guess now, because I might have already written that and forgotten. But it will it'll be evening time, so UK evening time, so somewhere between 6 and 9 o'clock, I would have thought, something like that. But details will be at hiphop.com/awards anyway at some point.
Okay, look forward to that. Because I remember we sat watching it last year, didn't we, Jane?
Yeah.
Yeah, we just did our show and we sat watching it, and the people watching us were listening to our reactions to your awards.
Oh, okay, a bit Gogglebox.
So yeah, it's quite interesting actually. So it's good fun. So I'm really impressed the way you do things, Steve. It's fantastic for the paranormal field, and I hope you keep on doing it for many more years and let it keep growing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, the last week is I just need a break now for the next year, but
and keep doing your research.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. And I mean, the amazing thing is I never run short of anything to write about. I mean, even away from, because I review all the TV shows, but in reality, even that only makes up 3% of the traffic of the website. There's so much more stuff on it. And the delving into how gadgets work and ripping them apart and the science behind it all. And there's so many different categories. And someone will ask you the most ridiculous question, like, do ghosts sleep? And that just opens up into a whole world of questions and ghost stories and experiences, and it's just never ending.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you from us for actually organising the awards. I know you probably get some people who aren't happy, but you can't please everybody.
I'm very good at ignoring people that aren't happy. There's a lot of negative, but I don't really get involved in that.
That's the best way. Just
but it speaks for itself. I mean, there was a bit of negativity last year, but I didn't see it myself. I just heard about it.
Yeah.
But the fact is, there were 40,000 votes, so the massively overwhelming majority of people did enjoy it, and it was just a small percentage of people who probably weren't involved anyway who didn't enjoy it. So, I mean, it's really not worth focusing on.
No, don't worry about it. So that's about it for tonight. Thanks very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure talking to you again.
That's all right. Thanks for having me back. It's really good.
Thanks, Jane. I know you don't do many interviews. Hopefully you'll do more.
Yeah, so I think we just need to say to everybody, so regardless of who you vote for, just go out there and vote. Go to the website, look at all the categories, look at all the people, and do your voting and support the event, support the Higgy Pop Awards, and let's make it better than last year. So regardless of who you're going to vote for, just go out there and vote and make it a huge success, because it all benefits all of us in the long term for the paranormal.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. I mean, every nomination there's a link to find out more about them. So you can, even if there's a category you don't really know the people in, you can find out a bit more, see if you like any of them, and if you do, give them your vote. That's the whole point of it.
That's it. I think it brings everyone together. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. So thanks everyone for watching. Thanks Steve and Jane as always. We're back tomorrow, aren't we, Jane?
We are.
We've got a guest, and I've seen she's messaged me asking make sure it's still on.
Yes.
So we got Kate tomorrow. I can't remember her surname.
Yeah, Ray. And we're going to be discussing all things faith.
Yeah, she's very interesting.
Is that fairies and things?
It is. It is
Ah.
a fairy world.
Jane will be in her element tomorrow night then, so I'm just going to sit back with a cup of tea. Thanks for watching. Please vote for your favourite and support Steve's efforts. Everything, we all appreciate it. We appreciate being nominated. That's an honour for us. So I just want to say thanks from the centre, Steve.
Well, thanks for your support, and good luck with your nominations as well this year.
Oh, thank you, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, catch you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.